What if I told you that you could find out that Jesus rose from the dead without using the Bible at all? Many atheists and skeptics like to say that the Bible is just a collection of myths about Jesus that aren't historically rooted at all. But this just simply isn't true. From the many historians from the time period that talk about this, there's at least 15 of them. I'm going to be focusing on Josephus because he has the most detail. He was a Roman Jewish historian who wasn't Christian, and in his writings, he confirmed incredibly congruent with the New Testament about Pontius Pilate, James, Jesus, Herod, and John the Baptist. He confirmed that all these people existed and talked about them in a way that lines up very well with the New Testament. As I said, he's one of many historians, and with all of them together, we can find an amazing collection of historical facts about Jesus. The historical record from all these historians, not using the Bible whatsoever, shows that Jesus died by crucifixion, that Jesus' disciples believed that he rose from the dead and appeared to them, and they died for that belief as well. Why would the eyewitnesses of an event die for something unless it was true? Many people die for something that they don't know is a lie, but the eyewitnesses knew that it was true, and they died for it. And the church persecutor Paul converted to Christianity after what he believed was a post-resurrection appearance of Jesus to him. The skeptic James, who was a brother of Jesus, converted after a similar experience and became a great leader in the church. And the resurrection proclamation began very, very early. And what that means is that the resurrection did not develop over time. It's not like Jesus got more divine over time, because Paul's letters, written before any of the Gospels, can fully confess the divinity of Jesus, even though you could sort of make a trend that they portray Jesus more divinely. Like John is not one of the synoptic gospels. He portrays Jesus more divinely than the others, but it doesn't mean the others don't portray him as divine. Here's some objections to the resurrection based off of these facts: the swoon theory, the stolen body theory, the wrong tomb theory, and the hallucination theory. We're going to start off with the swoon theory. The swoon theory claims that Jesus didn't actually die on the tomb, that he merely fainted or swooned from exhaustion and blood loss. After he was put in the tomb, he was later revived and escaped. This just doesn't work because they were experts at making sure that they died. And when the spear was thrust into his side, it would have been completely fatal. Not to mention that crucifixion was one of the most horrible ways to die, and they made sure that the people who were crucified died. This isn't a viable theory. And also, how would this guy, he would have been so close to dying, he would have been bleeding all over, he would have been visibly on the cusp of dying. How would he be able to roll that massive stone away from the tomb and then convince all of his followers that he had risen from the dead? That's just not feasible. Next is the stolen body theory. This theory says that Jesus' disciples stole his body in order to fake a resurrection and start a new religion. The problem with this is the evidence we have shows that they were terrified in hiding after the crucifixion. Why would they choose to risk their lives for a hoax, especially one that they would later be tortured and died for? They were tortured, and they would have been completely fine as long as they denied the resurrection afterwards. But no, every single one of them, except for John, died for the belief that they had seen Jesus rise from the dead. And it's not like John died off scot-free either. He was exiled to an island for his life. He's the only one of them that didn't die a martyr for the faith. Also, the Roman guard that's in front of the tomb the Roman guards would be killed if they let the body get out of the tomb. That was their job. That was their very important job. So that person would have every incentive to stop them from taking it from the tomb. So it's also not feasible at all. Then there's the wrong tomb theory. This theory says that the women and disciples just went to the wrong tomb and it happened to be empty. The problem is, this tomb belonged to a well-known figure called Joseph of Arimathea, and they could have easily corrected the mistake by just pointing to the correct tomb. And then, if they started a new religion, just carry the body around the streets of Rome, make everyone know that Jesus is dead. But the thing is, we have no evidence that anyone did that. No one did that, because they couldn't find the body. So the wrong tomb theory sort of assumes that everyone's had a collective amnesia about where they put the body of Jesus, which just isn't accurate at all. Then there's the hallucination theory. This theory says that the post-resurrection appearances were sort of like hallucinations, that all the followers had the same hallucination at the same time about Jesus. The problem is that hallucinations don't happen to multiple people at the same time in the same exact way. Even if two people had a hallucination at the same time, they wouldn't see the same hallucination. This theory relies on the fact that all of the apostles were hallucinogenic and that they saw the exact same hallucination of Jesus, and then all died for that belief based on hallucination that they saw. Also, 500 people saw Jesus risen after he was risen. So you'd also have to assume that all of those people also had hallucinations. And also, Paul and James, their brains would have no reason to have a hallucination about Jesus. So you have to believe that all of these people had hallucinations at the same time. So as you can see, none of these theories are feasible, and skeptics have yet to put another theory forward. And even if they did, they would need to provide evidence for that theory in the first century, and we just don't have that because all of the historical data points to those facts that are very congruent with the New Testament. Some people proposed combination theories where maybe some of the disciples hallucinated, but there was an empty tomb, and everyone forgot where the tomb was, and you combine these theories. The thing is, the issue with that is, let's say there's a 50% chance that each of these theories are true. That is wildly overestimating it. That is not a fair number at all, but I'm just trying to, let's give them the 50% chance. They have to believe that Paul and James, they both had hallucinations, and then if they have to believe that everyone had a collective amnesia about where the tomb was, and all these other things would have to line up. And that makes the theory less likely, not more likely. Just because if you compile all those odds in a very specific way, maybe there's a chance it could happen. That's even less likely. It's like throwing a bunch of pieces of confetti from the top of an airplane at 1,000 feet. Will it make the American flag? Maybe. At 10,000 feet, it's even less likely. Giving it more time and more ways for it to happen actually makes it less likely. So what really happened? Well, we just examined the extra biblical evidence, but there's also internal evidence inside the Bible. And if you want to see that, check out this video right here and tell me your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe.